Hey guys, it's Frankie D, and welcome to the Real Radio Show on the Real Radio Show 24/7, streaming on the realradioshow.com and streaming on TuneIn Radio. And if you are listening to us, we're also on Zoom. We're doing a Zoom interview with my friend George Saadi. Did I say it right, George? Your last name?
That is correct. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it, Frankie.
All right, so I'm gonna let people know exactly who is my friend George. Well, my friend George is well known in the entertainment business, and they say, well, George Saadi, okay, where is he in the entertainment business? Well, let's go all the way in history. Bill Aucoin, okay, like that one, huh, George? Bill
Mhm.
McCoy, okay, was the original and first manager of Kiss. And George was his good friend. And also, George is also Scott Baio. Yeah, Chachi, Happy Days. George is also the producer and also co-host of the Scott Baio podcast. Welcome,
That's
George,
correct.
to the show. How you
Thank you for
doing, sir?
having me. Everything's great, man.
First of all, we're going to dedicate this show to your buddy Mark, who has passed on, your co-host. So, Mark, we're going to dedicate this to you. I know you could hear it through heaven's gates. Okay, you know how loud your co-hosts are. Just Mark, do me a favor. When you're in heaven, do not mess with any of the toilets, please. Okay, because Scott Baio will figure out one way or another to mic up the flushing of the toilet from heaven to earth. Yes.
You have a good memory. Mark Jones, who is a co-host with myself and Scott on Scott's podcast, was a writer-director, and
Wow.
he was well known as really a legend in the horror genre. He had written and directed the Leprechaun movie, the first one.
No
They're
way.
up to number eight or number. I think they're making number nine. It's a big
Right, right. I saw
franchise,
the original one. I remember the original one. Very freaky.
and he's got a big history behind him. He did uh, a lot of writing for Glenn Larson and Stephen Cannell. He worked on the
Wow.
A Team. He worked on cartoons,
Wow.
People Friends. He came his whole career from animation through live action
That's
through
awesome.
film. Yeah, he was a huge, brilliant man, and he passed away a month ago. We really miss him. He was the third wheel on our podcast.
And you guys abuse the shit out of him.
He gave it right back to us.
You're all going to see our loved ones when we go to the kingdom of heaven. So, Mark, we'll see you soon. Just hang tight up there in heaven, okay? And just smile at your friends down here who love you very much. So,
That's nice.
no problem, my friend. A couple of things I want to ask you. First of all, great job on the Scott Bale podcast. I actually follow Scott because he's a big Republican and all, a big conservative and stuff like that. And I admired him. I really did. And then I saw his podcast with you and Mark and all that. I'm like, these guys are funny. These I like these guys. So I got into it. And I was like, you know what? I want to talk to these guys. I want to talk to all of them. I want not just Scott. I love Scott dearly, but I want to talk to George. I want to talk to Mark because Mark actually he's doing really one I felt bad for. I really wanted to interview him first, but I'm gonna have to go to heaven, and try to teleport something over there. But because he had that cigar, man, kicking back with his feet and stuff like that. I mean, he just had a very relaxed, like he was the shit.
He really was a secret weapon in it. But it was funny because he smokes. If he's awake, he's smoking. And we,
Wow.
I would go up to a cigar shop up the street, and I met Scott and Mark there, and we would just spend every day or two, get together and smoke and beat each other up, just like guys do, to have fun. And one day, Bayo said, "I want to put a camera on this." So we
Yeah.
basically
Smart.
said, "That's our podcast." And
Smart.
the theme of it was, what do guys talk about when they sit around and smoke cigars? So
Yeah.
any topic was open.
Right,
And
right,
we
right.
thought,
I love that, man. I just love that. Um, you have a very incredible history yourself, my friend.
no,
Worked with Columbia Records.
not
Um,
Columbia. I worked with Capital.
Capital, sorry. Same
Yeah,
union, different local. I got it.
it's all right.
Um, one of the things I liked because I did a deep dive. You have a big history with Bill Aucoin, Kiss's
Yeah.
former manager, and I'm sure you have a lot of cool stories. That's why you're on the show. But I like you as a
Ah,
person. I think you're a cool guy too,
thanks.
And I wanted to get some stories because I interviewed Gene about a month ago, and I did, send you the video. Actually, it was an audio. We did a phone interview with Gene Simmons. Um,
He seemed like
when
he
did
liked you.
say yeah.
Your
Yeah,
question.
he did. He made a comment that he liked me and said I was very unique and but my questions are very long. He says I believe the terminology. He says very flowery, flowery, something like that. I should be a writer. I just shoot from the hip, man. I'm an improv guy. That's just me. But I want to ask you, when did Bill first meet the guys who we now know is Kiss?
Well, the I wasn't there in that era. What I remember about that story was Bill had a television show on NBC called Flipside,
Wow.
and
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Flipside would feature artists that he wanted, but they counter programmed. NBC wanted crooners or famous older or middle of the road genre artists, and he was booking more alternative or not really punk, but pop or
Right.
rock. And that's not really what the executives wanted. So
Right.
they kept giving him a hard time on who he booked in. He told me stories that he would, he booked John Lennon, and Lennon said, "I'll do if you let Yoko sing." So he has footage of Yoko singing on Flipside. I mean, it's really unusual, rare stuff. He told me even before that um, he was working for Julia Childs. He was a cameraman on
Oh,
her cooking
wow.
show. That's really where he got started in the entertainment. I mean, I think it goes back further than that. I mean, if you talk to his sisters when they were alive, that he used to broadcast his own radio station out of their house, and he started to
Wow.
collect money for advertising. And the FCC came and shut it down. I mean, he seemed like he was a go getter even when he was a young man or a child. But he told me when he was at Flipside that he kept getting letters from a band from Gene and go come see our band, come see our band. So he said one day he just decided to go, but I think it was him and Sean Delaney at the time.
Okay.
Um, and he told me he walked into I think it was the Coventry in Queens, and he said it was dark and the floor had holes in it. Actually had to like be careful and not trip in the floor and find your way to the stairs and go up the stairs. And I think when they saw what Kiss was doing, they immediately understood what the potential was.
Right,
I
right,
think,
right.
and I think they both had a big hand in helping make that happen, as the band admits too. I mean, I think
Right. Yeah,
they saw
sure.
in the kernel there, but yeah, Bill told me that I think he made a deal with them that was within sign with me in a month or two if I don't get you a record deal,
Right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
you're
I
out.
remember
And
that in the
let you go. But he
documentary.
told me that not only did he book musicians on um, Flip Side, he would book executives. So he had Neil Bogart interviewed
Wow.
on Flip Side prior to that, and then
Wow.
when he saw the band, he went to Neil and said, "I look at presented the band that." So he had a comfortable in with Neil, and I think
Right.
that's why he was able to move so fast.
Hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. So when did you actually see Bill in action, Bill McCone in action? When did you actually, see the moving parts when he had Kiss underneath his umbrella? Did he say, "Hey, George, you got to see this band"? Or what was your experience? What was your first experience with Bill and the group
Sure.
that we know as Kiss?
When I got started, I got to back up a little bit if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead, go
When
ahead.
I was about 15 years old, I was really fascinated with Bill and Kiss and the machine behind them. And I was a big fan of Records, which is the label they were on initially. And
I remember.
I I'd written to Neil Bogart, the president, and I remember I was 15 and I got a letter back from him. And I was, as soon as I got the mail, I opened the mail, I go, I'm hooked. I go, this is what I want to do. I was 15 years old that he actually wrote back to me. So um,
Wow.
I
How,
thought,
well, let's stop it right there for a second because you're a 15-year-old kid, okay?
yeah,
And and
I was in Ohio, in Youngstown, Ohio.
yeah, and you get a mail, a letter
Mhm.
from the big guy or a record executive. You know,
Yeah.
how, I can't comprehend that at the age of 15. How did you?
Well, I was just really taken with Neil and Bill. How did they market this? I mean, I liked Kiss's music and things. I was not really a fan of everything else on the brand on the label because I
Right,
was a
right.
rock and roll. But I I think I wrote a song and asked questions and sent it to them, and he just wrote back to me. That was as simple as that. But
Wow.
when I got this beautiful letter, it was all made up and they're beautiful stationery. Actually, I'll send you a picture of it if you want to see it.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We're gonna put it up on here. Yes, that'll be
it
great.
made it, it just struck me, and I go, this is what I want to do. So I found my way when I tried to get into the music business, and I interviewed everywhere in New York and in Los Angeles, and they said, you don't have any experience. So I went back to Youngstown, my home, and was part of a project from a punk band that was very influential back in the day, and we were trying to put them back together. And we put out a 12-inch two-song vinyl, and that found its way back to Capitol, and they called and they said, "Okay, now you have experience. You want to come and work here?" And I went from my, working in my bedroom in Ohio to actually had a view of the Hollywood sign from my office in the Capitol Tower. I'm like, oh my God, look, I actually got here. It was
That's
something.
insane. Well,
What I wanted to tell you was when you work in things like artist development in the
yeah.
music business, you have to find different ways to expose artists. And we had this was I think the second Radiohead record. We were trying to
Wow. I
get
remember that. Yes, I
exposure.
remember that album.
But it was the record called The Bends, and I got a little bit. I wanted to get more exposure in music videos. It's a beautiful band. It's a visual band, and we didn't. I felt like they needed more. People need to see the band more. So I to avoid having a gatekeeper at MTV, which is this is what you get to play, or we decide. There used to be a time when Discovery Channel, the cable channel, they would go off the air at 3 a.m. and come back on 9 a.m. This is Eastern time.
Oh,
So you could
wow.
actually buy that time. So I bought 3 a.m. Eastern, which was 2 o'clock, and Central, which was 1 o'clock, Mountain, which was midnight in LA. And I made this little bastardized infomercial. What it was the
Wow.
band was being interviewed, and then we would cut to playing their video. So culminated in the new video that we were trying to get out. So into 30 million homes for 30 days straight, I played this video at midnight Pacific, and it played into all these
Brilliant,
homes, and
brilliant idea.
we had no airplay, we had no press, we had no tour, and the record started to sell, and we realized this worked. It was a show that worked. So when I did that, I wound up going to there are a couple of trade publications in the music business. People probably know Billboard. That's more of a consumer one, but there are
Right,
other
right.
ones
Yeah.
that are really for the trade to read. What happened in radio this week, or what's being sold, where the independent charts at. And I got a position where I had to write a retail article every week for one of these trades. And it was doing really well because we focused on independent retail. Most of retail back then, the big chains, the regional chains, they when you buy a record at a cash register in a store and you scan the UPC,
Yeah, I
that
remember.
goes to
Yes, yes.
and they track those records in something they used to call sound scan. Okay,
Yes, yes.
what sold? So, but there's a lot of stores that aren't part of SoundScan. And if you go into a tastemaker store in a community like out here in LA, it would be Amoeba Records, where people that's destination. You go there, they'll take a chance on a band. The kids that want to be first in finding new music will go to that store because they know they're going to ask questions to get it answered. So we amassed a bunch of these types of stores in each state and created an independent like tastemaker chart that was very effective. And
Wow.
uh, so well, this group of magazines got purchased by what became Clear Channel. It was SFX, and SFX got renamed Live Nation when it got purchased by uh, Clear Channel. So we became part of that family. They asked me to start a retail magazine. This is where I was getting. We want to start an additional magazine focused on retail. And I was like, you know what? I'm happy to do that, but nobody wants to read what I say about me interviewing this guy.
Right, right, right. Okay.
Let me invite people in the music industry. I'll get an independent label, I'll get a manager, I'll get an artist, I'll get a retailer, things like that. And I go, you can write whatever you want. Give me 2,000, 3,000 words. He goes, I promise I won't censor, I won't edit one word of it. I'll put it together in this magazine.
Keeping it
And
real. Keeping it real.
yeah, so doing that actually was a big bonus for us because people got to see on the raw. Here's what's going on. Here's how I can make it better. Here's what's wrong. Here's what's good. And so when they said go, I said, well, who are my heroes? Who do I want to learn from? So for a manager, I go, you know what? I'm going to invite Bill Aucoin
Ah,
to write an article for this. And at the time, there was a woman that I was working with out here that had tremendous potential as a singer and a great look. The band wasn't ready yet. She wasn't ready, but you could see that she had a drive in it. And she came
that's
up to me
interesting.
one week and she said, "Hey, there's a friend of mine knows this guy who wants to hear my music," and she couldn't pronounce Aucoin. She's going, "This he was a magazine publisher, and he knew Bill, and he goes, it's Bill." And then I looked at the spelling. I go, "Oh my God!" I go, "Do you know what? Do you know who this man is?" She had no idea. I go, "Give me his phone number." So she gave it to me, and I called him, and I said, I need you to write an article for this magazine. And then he asked me to go see her band. And he flew out here a month later, and I picked him up at a hotel on the Sunset Strip, and we were going to go out to dinner. And I took him to my favorite restaurant, which was a great Italian place out here. And they had a massive wine list. I don't really drink wine. I don't know
Right,
much
right, right,
about
right.
it. So we go there to eat, and Bill sits down and he says, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well," and I started giving him the music business answer. I need to do this at a label. And he goes, "George, we're talking about what's in your heart. What do you actually want to do?" And
Wow.
I finally went down back to, and I said, "I want," and I pulled out that show I made for Radiohead because I did that regularly. And I said, "I want this, but I don't want to pay um, Discovery for airtime because it's very expensive." I said, "I
Yeah.
want a regular show on the air that I don't have to pay them. In fact, I want them to pay me. I want this." And he goes, "Okay." So we eat, and I get this really big bill for two people. I probably $400 or $500, and
You're an
I
expensive date, George.
yeah, no, I go, I think he gave us the wrong check. And the waiter looks, he goes, "Look at the wine." So I look at the wine, and I go, "Oh my, and I look at Bill, and Bill goes, "Hey, I love this wine. I never find it anywhere." It's like it was a huge tab for me for the wine.
Wow.
But what I
Too
want to
funny.
tell you was, um, it was
This
a
is
day or two
funny.
later, and I was driving to Clear Channel, and I had to go to Burbank from the Valley in LA, which is sometimes a terrible drive in rush hour. And I'm driving, trying to avoid problems, and my phone rings. And I go, "Hello." And I hear Bill say, "George, are you there?" And I go, "Yeah." And then I hear him say, "Dick, are you there?" And I hear Dick Clark's voice
No.
on a
No.
conference call. And then he goes, "George, tell Dick about your Radiohead TV show." So I went, "Oh my God." So I pulled over and I was telling him how this worked, how I paid for it, how we do this, and he quizzed me for a long time. And he's going, "Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to let you buy this time and use this money and do." I go, "Dick, I'm doing it already. This is not a concept. This is on the air." I realized that he was kind of testing me a little bit. So at the
Yeah.
end of the conversation, he goes, "Come and see me in my office on Monday." So that was Bill's way of help me fulfill. What do you want to do? Well, I'm going to make that happen, and that's how he answered.
Wow.
That
That
was my
is
first exposure to Bill Aucoin.
so I remember it was pretty funny when I told you I did the Gene Simmons interview and you said, "Yeah, I had an experience with Gene." So and you told me and it was pretty funny. So I want you to share that with our listeners and our viewers, your experience,
Sure.
your first experience with Gene Simmons.
Um,
When you were in his
there was
office or
a
something like that, when you went with Bill and stuff like that.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
happened?
So you
Well,
went to his
there's a
house.
couple of them. I'll try and tell you the one I remember. The When Bill would come to town, I would before Lyft or Uber existed. I was his Lyft or Uber, but I went to these meetings with him. So I would pick
Right.
him up. I'd go to a hotel. We go to, and one day he called and said that he had found in his warehouse of Kiss, it was either 16 millimeter or an 8 millimeter um, reel, and
Wow.
he transferred it, and it turned out to be from what I remember him telling me when they were performing at the Coventry or Popcorn or whatever that club was, and they were do he would film them so that he could show them themselves on stage so they can say this is how you need to move. They can like let's start to get the choreography together. Let's This is how you really look. So let's improve the movement on stage. So what he had found was that tape. Here's the raw you performing at the Coventry. And when I looked at it with him, I said, this is going to bring every Kiss fan who may have like outgrown it or moved on back because this is what we love. And I thought it would have been a standalone, huge release to put out themselves. And it was like me, like uh, uh, I tried to limit myself to rock. I'm only rock. That's the only thing that's cool to me. And then when Dynasty came out and I was made for love, and you came. Sure, it's a big hit, but for me, I'm like, what happened to my band? I wanted my rock band. So what I was saying, when if I saw this reel that Bill found, that would bring me right back. Okay, I'm right in the heart of it again. So Bill decided that he wanted to release it himself, or us do it independently. So he came out here for the purpose of showing it to Gene and Paul. And I picked him up and I drove him when Gene lived in Beverly Hills. We drove up to Gene's house. It was actually funny because I don't blame him for security, but he goes, press the button, and when you hear the response, say this word or this nickname, or so I said it. I go, Bill Aucoin for this alias, and so the gate opens, and then I was laughing because
It's like a
it was
James Bond thing.
funny.
It's typical Gene Simmons, you know that. It's all
Well,
smoking. It's all smoke and mirrors.
well, we went in and um, we Gene had a funny mat or something, welcome back. It said something like "go away," and he was like showing us around the knickknack. And we went into he showed us Bill knew Shannon and other people there, so he said hello to people. And I was just standing there going, I'm standing in the middle of Gene Simmons' house going, oh my God. And then I remember this is so weird, but I remember Bill wanted something, a snack or a drink. So Gene walked us over to the refrigerator and he was getting ready to tour. So he had health stuff in it. He opened it and Bill grabbed a drink or snack, and I was just looking at the ketchup. I go, that's Gene Simmons's ketchup right there on the like. I was like a little kid looking at his refrigerator. It was funny, and so we walked around that house, that wing of the house. There where he keeps his Kiss museum. There's like
Yeah,
glass
yeah.
case
It's his office, I
apartment.
think. I
So
believe
we
it's his
walked
office.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's real. It's mostly a display, and then there's one desk with his chair on one side and two other chairs on the other
Right, right.
side. And so we go in there, and most of the time, Gene didn't talk to me. He talked to Bill, and then after a while, he asked me where I was from, and he goes, "No, don't tell me." And he guessed pretty clearly by what he said my accent was in Northeast Ohio. And then he named the clubs, every club that's been there for 20 years.
Oh my
He
gosh.
named them all. Like he knew everything about it. But we're um Gene and Bill sit down on the two seat side, and I put the video in, and they start to watch this performance and he was genuinely surprised, like, oh my God, like he had forgotten, he didn't see this before.
Wow.
And Gene's, I was standing up because there's only two seats that could see the video screen,
Right.
and he will take my seat. So he let me go around the back and sit in his seat,
Oh, wow.
and because I seen it, and I remember Gene saying, "Look, Peter's playing like he cared, like he gives a shit because you're playing fast, and like you're like it wasn't just." And I was like, "Oh," then you could see there are other like things coming to mind.
Yeah.
But what they're watching this, and I'm sitting at Gene's desk, and I see his phone, his multi-line phone on the desk, and
Yeah.
I slyly looking at the phone, and I'm putting all of his phone numbers that are on these tabs into my cell phone while I'm just sitting there and they're watching the thing. So I'm like, and he was trying not to get busted, so I saved all of his phone numbers. It's very, very
Oh
funny.
shit!
This will come up.
You hacked Gene Simmons's phone, old school style.
Yeah, it was funny. And there was a party, Giorgio Moroder, the
Okay,
disco producer that did Casablanca stuff, was having
I
a
heard of that name before.
birthday party at Spago because he's the one that named Spago. He gave that
Hmm.
name to the restaurant, and they invited Bill to be there. And he called me and asked me to let's get together, and then you just drop me off there, and we'll go from there. So he had gotten a new suit, and he was looking at it, and he said, uh, he looked great, and he went and he had fun, and I picked him up, and there was a place near, it's gone now, near LAX, the Los Angeles airport, called the Proud Bird. And what it was like a old rundown restaurant, but they used to let you smoke cigars outside watching the planes take off. So we would go there so Bill could smoke a cigar and I would smoke with him. And um, I took him there before he left because we always made time to relax and before he got on the airplane. And he said that we went to Gene and Paul's house and showed them that 16 millimeter. He goes, he never, I saw his eyes got a little bit watery, and he
Hmm.
said, um, I want them, uh, I wanted to know that they loved me and I love them.
Oh, wow.
And I was saying, well, then I realized that I think they probably hadn't seen each other in a long time. And when we went to those homes with that tape, it wasn't so much about let's watch this tape. It was about will they let me in? Well, how do they feel about me? That kind of thing. That's my take on it. So um, when I drove him to the gate and dropped him off, he talked about the new suit he wore. He goes, "This is how I want people to remember me." And
Wow.
I
Damn.
started to, and when he got out of the car and he said goodbye. And I started to drive out of the airport, and all these like facts coalesced at one time. And I said, "Oh, this is how I want them to remember me. Um, I want them to
Wow.
know that I love them." They go, "Oh my God, he's dying." It all clicked driving down the road, and I said, it actually like gave me chills, and I pulled over, and I was like, I started to rethink through all of this stuff. So it hit me, and I'm going, how could I be so naive? And um, uh,
Wow.
when 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 he got back to Florida, he'd gone into the hospital, and I kept calling Roman, his roommate boyfriend. They shared a place, and they were in love. They were
Yeah.
together for a long time. I
Right.
go, how's Bill? I didn't really know Roman, but every day I called to see how he was doing, and I was thinking, hey, when's he going to get out? I want to talk to him. And then it got kind of clear that he was not going to get out of the hospital, and
Right.
called Roman, and he goes, he's if you want to see him, you better come now. And I said, I'll be there in the morning. He goes, no, you should be here tonight if you want to see Bill. So I flew down, I took a red eye, and he picked me up, and I went into the room. And even in the hospital room, dying, there's a sense of who the sense of humor of Bill, because he had those big white eraser boards he write on. It said, uh, violate, no, trespassers will be violated. Like he was writing things on his, and then it said, what is his name? And they had some rock and roll name and what business. It was actually funny how people dealt with him. But when he passed away, um, Roman and I and some other close friends and people that work with Bill were there, and we basically said our goodbyes and thank yous to him before he passed. And then I remember getting Bill's phone, and we reached out to Paul and Jean because we wanted them to know. And they immediately got on a plane. I think they were in Belgium or somewhere, and they came and flew back to the hospital. They didn't make it before he passed, but when they showed up, it was really kind of them actually, because there's a little a little hamburger joint out on the beach on the water that Bill would go to and with Roman and hang out. And um, we met them there and we just sat and swapped stories all afternoon about
Wow.
Bill. And when I remember telling them that he said he just wanted them to know that he loved them. And when I told them that, they put out a press release, and I saw that line in the press release because it was both ways. They both wanted to know we're not mad at you, you're not mad at us. We went through all this, we made it. We still love each other after all the bad blood that may have happened in business with them. But the story I wanted to tell you was while I was sitting there, I remembered that I had stolen Gene's phone numbers off his phone. So
Oh,
I just wanted to see if I wanted to go, do I actually have those? So I opened my phone to look at it, and I accidentally called just for like a minute when it rang his mobile that he had on him, and he pulled it out. And I go, I guess I have to explain something to you. So I told him what I had done, and he had his finger in my face like he was going, he lectures you. But he didn't say anything. And Paul looked at him. He goes, "This is great guerrilla marketing." He goes, "This is great. You can't yell at him. This is a great thing to do." So he goes, "Never call that number." So I said, "Fine." So, but anyway, that was the end of that story.
that is such a great story, man. And thank you for coming on the show and sharing this, man. This is really, really good stuff. And it's an honor to have you, my friend. And you are
You
my
know,
friend.
thank you for inviting me. And I was lucky in to know Bill and be exposed to the magnetic personality this man was. He was a brilliant man, and I'm happy to call him a friend. And I appreciate you inviting me to come on here.
You know what? Another thing, George, Bill knew that you loved him.
I think I think
Like family, and he had a special part. He had a special place in his heart for you. For some iconic manager like that to make a 15-year-old boy's dream come true, man,
yeah,
that is freaking awesome, man. That is
it was.
so awesome. And not too many people could say that. Not too many
Well,
people could say that. So
I appreciate that I got the fact to have to get to know this man. I mean, in so many ways, it impacted me beyond that. Not just like things like direct things like meeting Dick Clark through him and working with
right.
Dick. It was things that I learned from him and how to take smart risks and the daringness and how you have to build your confidence and represent
Absolutely.
yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell you, George, where can fans check you out and know more about you? This is, you got the Scott Bale podcast. Scott busts your balls all the time. It's like, yeah, I got to have you come on the show because I got to know how the relationship of you and Scott, how you guys met it. Because
I'll be
that
happy to tell you that next time.
yeah, no, I'm gonna have you come on the show because actually I want you and Scott to do well. That remember I was telling you I like to have Scott come on the show, and
Yeah,
you come on the show. Well, this is the topic I want to talk about. I want to know
I
about how
I'll
you
ask him.
guys. I want to know how you guys met. Okay, I want to hear just like the story that you talked about Bill Aucoin, which I think is freaking awesome, and this is real, true life stuff here on the Real Radio Show. We keep it real on the Real Radio Show. So I want to know. I want to know about that stuff.
I'd be happy to come back with Scott. We'll figure something out.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. So where can the fans check you out? Where can people check you out? Facebook. We got anything big going on? We just do a Google search or what? What's going on?
We did, The regular thing that I do is Wednesday nights we do a live podcast with Scott Baio, where you can actually like type in questions or comments and things, and we talk to people on the air about stuff guys talk about when they're smoking cigars. So
Cool, cool.
that's the most regular thing. It's on YouTube, it's on
So,
Facebook, it's
so
on
what's the name of the show?
Instagram.
I forgot the
Um,
name of the show because I
Started
only
out,
go ahead.
and it started out as Scott Baio's take on life, and then it kind of evolved into the Scott Baio podcast.
Okay,
And
great. All right, so
you can find
guys,
all of them on YouTube. Yeah.
awesome. So guys, viewers, listeners of the Real Radio Show, check out the Scott Baio podcast, okay? And my friend George over here, and who produces the show and does all the editing and all that stuff. He's a great guy, George. And and you'll see the interaction with him and Scott. And it's a good show. It's like George says, just hanging out at a bar or hanging out at a
Yeah.
restaurant, smoking cigars, and you definitely have to do the repeat of Mark, if we heard the toilet bowl flush or something
Oh,
like that, we
what
that's
happened on that is
that,
Mark, in the middle of
yeah,
the show,
I know
yeah, he,
exactly what happened. Mark had to go to the bathroom.
yeah,
All right. So instead of like what we
he
do is like
excused
right.
himself. He excused himself in the middle of the show.
Yeah, well, I had to do that too. I had to black out the screen, and that's why we do pre-recorded. So if you're listening to this
Yeah,
or watching it, it's pre-recorded or it might be live. But
yeah,
the funny part was on the Scott Baio podcast on one of the shows that I've seen, and that's why I like it so much because it's real. It's improv. It's not a scripted show. It's not
not
polished.
at all.
It's just these knuckleheads and
That's a good description.
Chachi's Scott Baio, Happy Days,
Yeah,
and my friend George over here, just talking about life and just any topic, which is really cool. And the funny one that I seen, the podcast that I saw, was when you guys, I forgot exactly what the topic was because I saw quite a few of them, but there's Mark sitting back, smoking his cigar. He's always fiddling around with something. He's not really paying attention to you guys. He's
yeah,
watching you guys actually. He is paying attention, but he's smoking. He's laying back. If you could visualize this on radio, he's like sitting back, and you see this big cloud of smoke that blocks the camera. The cigar
you're right.
smoke. It's like the old school billboard. Gangster movies and like in the bar where they the billiards and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
you have the gangsters smoking the cigars, and it's like that. So his setting with his camera, he has the smoke, and then on top of the smoke blocking his face, it's like a scene from Darth Vader. He's in the background with the smoke. It's kind of cool if you put a different like lights on and something like that. It'd be like a concert. That's how much smoke that was coming out of him like a
yeah,
chimney. And and Scott and George is just talking, and you got to watch the shit that's going on on Mark's camera because it's funny shit. But
yeah. He,
Scott
he
and
couldn't
George,
believe.
but
Huh?
but George, you guys weren't noticing half the stuff he was doing. You know what I'm saying? Just like fixing his chair,
You're
just like
right.
just the things that you wouldn't do in front of a camera. You know.
He was nut, but he was brilliant. But when he went to the bathroom, we tried to listen for him to
I
flush the
know.
toilet.
Because
Yeah,
because Scott was like, George, wait, wait, wait. And I knew he was going to do this because it was the perfect segue to do because in middle of a content that you guys are talking about, George gets up and he doesn't say anything. He just gets up and Scott's like,
uh,
where's
Mark gets,
George?
Mark
What?
left.
Oh, Mark, sorry.
Mark got it.
Mark,
Yeah,
Yeah, Mark. Mark gets up. Mark gets up. And you guys are talking your content. And then Scott notices that, Mark is not there. And, Scott's like, where is he? And you said, I think he's in the bathroom.
yeah.
And then Scott's like, all right, be quiet, be quiet. Shh, shh. To see if he has a toilet flush.
We had a lot of
It's
fun on that show. Still
it's
do.
it's kid stuff, man. It's grown men acting like kids. We all kids.
That's
We'll
right.
never grow up, and
Guys beat each other up.
and that's I gotta say honestly, that's what really hooked me on the show.
That's
That's
great.
why I was watching a little more longevity. because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, you know. But then when I saw that one scene, with the toilet, and all, I was like, oh, I gotta know what these guys are gonna do next time. They're gonna torture this poor guy, Mark.
I'm
But
so
no,
happy that you like it.
yes, I do, and many blessings to you and Scott on that show, and and much love to your friend in heaven, Mark.
Thank you.
You left your toilet bowl mark on Scott Bale's podcast, man.
That's fun.
All right, George, stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Real Radio Show.